My wife Emily died suddenly of a heart attack. There was no warning at all. The night it happened, I was getting ready for bed and she was still in the living room watching TV. She called out my name twice, but by the time I got to her, she was on the floor, unconscious. I tried desperately to revive her, and the paramedics did too, but she was gone. My world was shattered.
My wife Julie died 4 years ago. She was wonderful. Always smiling, so alive with life. Julie adored Carrie and Amy. I was in sales, so I was on the road 5 days a week and only home on weekends. Julie was home with them all the time. I was devastated when the doctor ran tests after a routine checkup and found that Julie had leukemia. It felt like lightning had struck my head and pierced my heart. Julie was so young, 29.
I'm Grace. I've been told that my name means love from God. But sometimes I wonder, does he really love me? And if so, why did this happen to us? I've been widowed for a little over 26 months. Boy, talk about a shock. I was not prepared to be a widow. We had 2 girls, one in high school and one in college, and our son was a senior in high school.
Joe died after a long fight with lung cancer. For years, he was in and out of the hospital for treatment or tests or one thing or another. By the last year, I was so worn down, I wasn't sure whether Joe or me would be the first to go. We always did everything together. I just didn't have the heart to make plans without him. I didn't want to go on without him.
I'd back off from people, or cringe whenever anyone would ask about my family. There's still so much about his death and my reaction to it that are buried deep inside. Sorry. Sorry, Julie. Sorry, Alan. I got so damn fed up of hearing sorry from everyone. I cursed God going and coming from work and the hospital. I snapped at my 80-year-old grandmother and secretly wished that she would be the one to die and not my wife.
For a long time, I resented my friends who still had their spouses. I started to back off from gatherings where there were only couples. I also tried to get out of going to weddings or anniversaries.
Some of the loads that I've been carrying are keeping house, making meals, paying the bills all by myself. And at first I said, I simply can't make it without Emily. Within 6 months, I was going to social gatherings, looking for a wife. I was just so afraid of not making it by myself.
I was buried in an avalanche of whys over Ron's sudden death. Why had all this happened? Why, after we had worked so hard to save our marriage? Why me?
Dearest Joe, I've tried to write you for many months, but I've always found excuses not to. I was afraid that talking to you in this heart-to-heart way would be too painful for me. But now I see that after being with you for over 35 years, it's important for me to put words around my feelings.
It's true. People around you, co-workers, best friends, even family members really don't know or understand what you're going through. The experience is personal and unique to each individual, regardless of the circumstances of the loss or how long the marriage was. People certainly mean well, and they really do care. But unless they have actually experienced such a loss themselves, it's beyond comprehension. When my father passed away after more than 50 years of marriage, my brothers and sister and I felt the loss of a parent. But my mom lost a soulmate. For her, it was an entirely different experience, one that we could never understand. Then when my older brother's wife died, suddenly at a young age of 59, again, I didn't understand, or maybe even was afraid to ask what he was going through. I think we sometimes have that attitude, oh, everything will be all right, because the reality is not happening to us. People may even try to avoid mentioning the deceased spouse. It wasn't until my wife was hospitalized and things weren't going so well that I began to think about how my life would be without her. It gave me a glimpse into what a surviving spouse might have to go through, and I was petrified. For several weeks, we didn't know what the outcome would be. Fortunately, all is well, but the experience over those few weeks was terrifying. In working with the Joyful Again program, it became apparent to me that some people may be able to cope with their grief and move on, but for many, the loss remains ever present. There comes a time when they need to find the road to dealing with those issues and begin to move on in the new life that lies ahead. Denying this just keeps them in a constant state of grief. Joyful Again has been that road for thousands of people for more than 30 years. It's a non-denominational spiritual program created to help widowed men and women resolve grief issues resulting from the loss of their spouse. The process toward healing is fostered by trained volunteers, peer ministers who have experienced the pain of loss themselves and have personally experienced many of the feelings that accompany the loss. The Joyful Again program takes place over 6 segments, each consisting of video presentations, private journaling, and small group sharing, enabling participants to reflect on their personal experiences of grief and then move from that isolation to community, focusing on the future. Reconciliation and prayer services are part of the program's healing process. During the weekend, sessions will include discussion and video presentations on topics including stages of grief, the journey from loss to healing, passing through several stages to resolution, forgiveness of yourself and others, children and the family dynamics, handling the holidays. That's a difficult time for many. These topics and many others give everyone the chance to open up and discuss important issues and feelings. The Joyful Again program is presented over a weekend with a full day Saturday and a shorter day on Sunday, usually in parishes, church facilities, or other suitable settings. In most cases, participants will leave after Saturday's session and return Sunday for the rest of the program. Occasionally, the program may be held at a location with private overnight accommodations. Meals and refreshments are served throughout both days. If you are an individual interested in attending a Joyful Again weekend or an organization that would like to sponsor the program, please contact Joyful Again at 708-354-7211. Comments and evaluations of past participants tell us that the Joyful Again weekend was a life-changing event that helped them find acceptance, peace, resolution, and the strength to move forward to a more fulfilling future.
When I made my Joyful Again weekend, I discovered the reason I wasn't handling the red letter days well is that I had no plan of attack. I didn't want to admit how completely different life was now.
Until I made my Joyful Again weekend, I felt like the whole world was having a party and I wasn't invited. I loved going out, dancing, out to nice dinners, having good times with friends, and here I was, alone and miserable. How could everybody else be having so much fun? Ron was gone, and I was going to be alone forever. On my Joyful Again weekend, I found others who had survived what I was going through and had begun to make a new life. I also realized that I was playing the comparison game. Everybody else has somebody and they're so happy. I have nobody and I can't be happy with just myself. The result of the comparison game was that I became cold and cynical. My life has taken a positive direction since the weekend. I can accept and even enjoy doing things alone.